edition, Kids and Sports, coming up next.
You're all looking better than me today.
Coach Mike, nobody ever looks better than you.
Oh, well, thank you, Alex. Coach Mike here, Kids and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. I don't know if we're going to get away with this thing because we're having too much fun before we even get started.
I'll tell you what, it's a better show before the show.
That's right. We're all talking about how young we really feel mentally, I guess it is. And we all agreed that 25 was a good number, despite some of our advanced age here and some more advanced than others, of course. But despite what our bodies tell us, I think we're proving that old segment that I was always accused of, said I keep getting older, but I refuse to grow up.
Right on.
My co-host, Alex Alanis, and today joining us on Kids and Sports, Dr. Gerald Coy, a Downey chiropractor who I've known for a number of years. And yes, there's a lot of chiropractors in the world, but few of them, I think, have the experiences Dr. Coy has enjoyed in his lifetime. We're going to be talking with him later about how to keep your kids safe in ways you didn't think of, perhaps, out there on the sports field. But in the meantime, make sure you do your homework. You got to check out the website, www.kidsinsports.com. That's KIDZ, N as in Nancy, sports.com. And my email address, coachmike@kidsinsports.com. So you can send me your emails, refer guests to me. If you want to sponsor the show, if you want to call the show, 855-969-RANT. That's 726-969-7268. So, Alex, I was bagging on your Cowboys all week, but you say they finally won a game last week.
You can bag on all you want there,
okay.
Coach Davis. Bag on them all you want. Let's hear it.
My daughter told me this great joke I just couldn't resist. For all my Cowboy friends out here about the new cellular phone line company out there called Romo Line, but they can't get any customers because everybody's afraid their pass is going to be dropped or intercepted.
Yeah, well, too bad for the Bengals this weekend because they actually got intercepted
that
a
was
couple of times.
last weekend.
No, it was Saturday.
That was last weekend.
That was Saturday.
I'll train you one of these days. Anyway, we're going to be talking. A week ago Friday, I was on Dr. Coy's show. He does a show also here on the Rant Radio Network, Solutions for Life. And,
our studio audience.
That's the biggest audience he's ever had. I don't know, but Dr. Coy and I wrote a book some time ago, Healthy Kids and Sports. And in it, we talk from both the coach's perspective and a medical perspective on safety for the kids and how to keep them safe out in the field, when to put them into appropriate situations. Some of the things, Alex, you got some daughters, and like one of the things we talk about, some parents in softball, for example, their daughter, 13-year-old daughter, is so good she could play on an 18-under team. And I asked them, do you want your 13-year-old daughter hanging around with 18-year-olds that are dating, driving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely not.
See, you're right there.
I do not want them hanging around with them. I mean, those young ladies are getting into things that my younger daughters I would not want to be exposed to at that age anyway.
I see two things out there that some parents either don't think about that period or their daughter's not going to be, so they'll be able to protect her. You can't, when you travel away, if you're on a travel team and you go to Las Vegas, you go to Arizona, New Mexico, Florida, wherever you go to, and even if the parents are there, the team is usually in another room a lot of times, or there's going to be certain times they're all hanging around together. You're not there. You're not going to hear every conversation.
Yeah, well, and it's not that they're not going to be exposed to that at some point, but it's the maturity level.
There you go.
The young ladies, if they're younger, 10, 12 years old, the maturity level is there to handle some of the things that the older girls are being exposed to.
And especially these days where some of the one things the older girls are they shouldn't even be handling, much less the 13-year-old.
That's true, too. That's true, too, but that's another show, I think.
That's another show. I got a great one. Dr. Coy, welcome to Kids and Sports.
Well, thank you, Mike. I'm Coach Mike. I appreciate being here.
I'm going to start off right there because we talk about age appropriate. There's two things that we've talked about a few years ago on the show that there's two ages to be worried about. One is your calendar age, and one is your chronological age or developmental age.
Developmental age, yes.
Developmental age. And just last week, we had the finishing of the Little League World Series. Japan beat California a week ago, 6-4. But before they got to the California team, and the California team had a pretty big pitcher, but there was a Michigan team that has a 12-year-old that is 6'3", 219 pounds.
I still want to see that person.
My goodness.
I'm sorry.
What are they putting in the chicken out there? I'll tell
what
you.
are they feeding this kid?
Yeah, exactly.
I was trying to find one of the articles, but I think they said his relational speed, because I think Little League they're not 60 feet away, they're only like 40 some feet away, that he was equivalent of throwing over 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
So
Sign him up.
yes. So there's now I don't know about a situation like, because there he's not physically like wrestling or something like that, but he's still definitely going to overpower a lot of kids.
Well, it's one thing to in your development to have skills that kind of overshadow somebody else. Whether you're taller or faster or this or whatever it might be. But it's another thing when there's power there, and when there's more potential for injury to younger, smaller, athletes. That's when I get into my concern, of course.
Well, I could imagine too that with a pitcher of this size at that age, though, because being a parent of a softball pitcher myself, one of the things we always get in love with is the radar gun. Everybody likes the home runs, but as pitchers like radar guns, even though any of us that really take the time to know about pitching, the radar gun is only one piece of the speed is the only one piece of it. But I'm wondering how much pressure there is on this kid on a constant basis to throw a little bit harder, a little bit harder, a little bit harder.
The push, and of course that's where it gets into my concerns is, how much are these kids being pushed by parents, by coaches, to go beyond their developing body. The kid's 12 years old. I'm sorry. There's a lot of growth and muscular strengthening and other things that need to take place to keep this kid from getting injured. And I fear that the kid's going to be pushed too hard, and all of a sudden that which could have developed into maybe a fantastic athlete is halfway through it, either emotionally or physically, he's going to be damaged.
And the emotional happens way too often. One of the stories I share, Alex, that when I started to go to high school, I was living with my aunt and uncle, and our family doctor was a guy named Harry Ramsire, I think is his name, over in Phoenix. And I wanted to play football like a lot of kids do going to high school, and he said no football until you're at least a junior, because he said there's too many permanent injuries because certain growth plates have not developed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there's not a football coach out there that'll say, yeah, I don't want to see it till you're a junior because I'm worried about your growth plates, right?
But did you hear what he said? The amount of permanent injuries.
Yes.
It's one thing to sprain an ankle. It's one thing to twitch a muscle or do something like this. He's talking about permanent injuries.
And what would that be? What would something like that be there?
Well, I did a research project through the Share Foundation, and we had one of the doctors I had. It wasn't actually that young. His name was George Youngblood, who played for the Bears, Browns, Saints.
Rams.
And Rams 1 year. Not Jack Youngblood, but he came in and he brought with him a lot of the old players, a lot of the old people, even pre-association players and everything else that had been injured. And we did a series of x-rays on these people. Of a group of 13 people, practically all of them except one had spinal injuries that they were carrying for the rest of their life. Some of them will have a lot of pain. Some of them will have a lot of other challenges that come from that. But those are the kind of injuries that can come about. It also depends upon whether you're talking about structure or the bone damage, joint damage, or muscular damage that's in there. You're well familiar with the joint damage from your history and everything else. But you mess up that joint, and you've got something that may cause you problems later on.
That's part of the problem, that we don't view these as injuries. Well, by the time you get there, they're just getting old.
Understand, this is the challenge with the young kids. Now, I don't know how much the x-rays would show in the development of the 6'3", 12-year-old, but there's what's called growth centers. This is where your body is still expanding. This kid has a lot of expanding to do. Heaven only knows how much expanding. But those growth centers have not solidified. In fact, actually, until you're 25, everything in the bone structure has not solidified. There are still some gaps. Of course, most of the gaps are in the head when you're over 18, 19. You know, some of the, very loose when you're younger than that from own experiences. But these growth centers can be affected from the trauma. And all sports have some aspect of trauma, whether you're swinging a tennis racket on that shoulder, whether you're a pitcher, or whether you're running, or whatever it might be. When you really put more and more force into that body, your potential for affecting these joints is much greater.
There you go.
You know, I see us as adults looking at somebody like this individual. You said he was 6'3".
6'3", 218 pounds,
Yeah.
12 years old.
Yeah, the
We're-
218 pounds is amazing to me, too.
We're looking at him like one of us now, you know, as an adult.
Yeah.
But when you said he's 12 years old, I'm like, this is a facade.
Yeah.
And you really do have to pay attention to
Look inside that body. Take an x-ray of that body, and you're going to see a 12-year-old. Maybe a little bit more matured, but you're still going to see a 12-year-old body that's with growth centers and things in those joints and everything else that can be disrupted, can be more easily hurt than after you're in a junior in high school.
Bigger, larger people tend to have more back problems, from what I understand.
Well, it's many times because of the dynamics and the biomechanics of forces that go along. You know, it's going to you can compound the injury because of the size.
Well, I'm thinking of somebody like Shaq.
Oh yeah.
Some of these basketball players, 6'10", 7 foot tall, you know, every now almost everyone you read an article at some point or an interview, and they've got back issues because they got a lot more back than you or I do.
It's also the combination of injuries. What people don't realize, I see people that come to my office. You know, this is my work. And they say, well, did that fall cause this problem? I said, it was that fall and the fall before that and the injury before that, the auto accident you had, the sports you played, and everything you did for the 20, 30, 40 years before you came into this office. It's a compounding process. It's not just a single, it can be if the trauma is bad enough.
They would look for somebody to pay for it.
well, and it's the way
Exactly.
you sit and sleep as well.
Any of your biomechanics of how your body is working can affect what's going on.
Wow, we got this good. We got 2 hours. We're going to be discussing all these injuries here. But right now, we got to take a break. Kids and Sports on the Rant Radio Network. We'll be back after these messages.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
We are the Three Guys Rant.
With Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the Three Guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's, the other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69 Three Guys. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the three guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanj, and I'm always joined by
Edgar,
Carlos Medrano, and this is a show where we talk about
comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
Well, it's in the morning. I wake up in the morning. Yeah, okay. And I hear that haunting tune, you know.
Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports, with our guest today, Dr. Gerald Coy, a Downey area chiropractor and administrator and founder of the Share Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization to help
kids.
Kids.
Actually, help everybody.
Help everybody. But
it's one of our major things is to help children. We take care of children from low-income families for free. These are kids that are hurt sometimes in accidents, sometimes in playing at home, but also some sporting accidents. In fact, a lot of kids I have in my office right now are kids that have been hurt in sports.
There you go. And you know, the one thing, and we love sports. The thing is now, Dr. Coy sometimes might want to get rid of some of them. But
there's a few there that I might have some objection to.
What's wrong with playing chess? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, you never played full contact chess?
Chess? I never have. No,
you never have. Yeah.
Now there's the key word: contact.
Yes.
That's where there's a challenge.
You don't just take the queen out; you tackle her. You know.
Pawn jump the queen.
Yeah, there you go. But no, we you know, there's a movement going on that disturbs me. Disturbs them. As a matter of fact, when I was at your house last week, Alex, and we were talking with your brother, and I told him I saw one article predicting the end of contact sports in the schools.
Oh, that's right.
Within 5 years, and he says that'll never happen. But yet there is a big movement.
I wouldn't be surprised because when you look at the injuries that come from it, and the way in which we deal with them. You know, kids play, kids get hurt, no matter what it might be, and you don't want them to, but we have a society now, it's kind of like getting to the point where you can't do anything. Let's keep the kids inside. Don't let them go outside.
Yeah.
I mean,
no monkey bars on the playground.
All sorts of things. Hey! It's unfortunate when kids get hurt. I don't want kids hurt. But that's part of life, too. I want kids to enjoy life, and, you know, there's a certain amount of risk that goes with it.
You're not going to learn you shouldn't try to jump off that 2-story building. You might break your leg unless you try.
Oh, I'm going to be Superman.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the end result. If you lock your kids in a closet for 20 years, that's what they're going to end up doing because they haven't learned that they're going to get hurt with the smaller things, and over time you start to protect yourself.
Yeah, I was listening, and you know, before the show started and everything else, all this jabber about something called football. I don't know why anybody would watch that, but you know,
let's get ready to
obviously you guys like football. And I played football. You know, I was out there. You know, I was not that good. You know, when I was in middle school, you know, I was out there as the dummy. You just come and you knock me down.
Well, they didn't have helmets back then.
Yeah, they did.
Well, they had leather helmets.
But you know, it got to the point where I wanted to go out there and play because my father had played, and I wanted to be like my dad. And there's a certain amount of testosterone concept in sports, but like when I was as a doctor and I'm seeing these people come in and there's injuries, I always get to ask the one big question: would you let your son play football? I hate that question.
Now, what are you going to do if you're a parent and your kid says, I want to play football?
Exactly. And, of course, the ones I see the most are generally the mothers bringing their kids in because they're concerned. Not that the fathers are not concerned. I don't want to put lay a guilt trip on the fathers, but fathers have the testosterone that they're building up. That my son's going to go out there and do this, this activity.
Yeah, shake it off.
Yeah. Shake it and go. Let's go out
Shake it off. Let's do it again.
Believe it or not, Dr. Goy, we got a kid bigger than this kid in our church, and I think he's gonna. I think they said he's going to Lucerna High School, and I think he's about 6'5", and maybe I'm gonna say 230, 240, maybe more. I don't know. His dad is a big guy. His dad's like about 6'6".
You were talking about size, developmental differences. When I played football, I was a tackle. I'm on the line. I probably weighed 155, 160 pounds. I was probably 5'10", 5'11" at the time and everything else. Now look at, you're talking about teenagers. You're talking about high school football. These kids packing on weight, which I'm not overly pleased with. I appreciate the fact that when I started learning the sport and everything else, you just went out and you played, and you got hurt. Now, because of the concerns, there's some good things. You have preparation for this. We talk about this in our book, about preparing your kids for sports. To do what? To prevent accidents. So when you get that question about would you allow your son to play, my answer is if he really wants to play, yes. But
you're going to put some restrictions on
there's going to be conditions, not restrictions as much as conditions. You're going to be working out. You're going to be preparing that young body of yours to be able to withstand what? Contact sport. You're going to get hit. You're going to get rolled over. You're going to be run over. So I want that body. I know it has a potential of injury. Of course, as a chiropractor, it says, and every Monday or Friday or both,
you're going to be in my office.
You're going to be in my office, and I'm going to check you out.
Now, who do you worry about more? Do you worry more if you're the parent of that 6'4", 250-pound kid, or do you worry more if you're the kid on the other side of the line that's going to get hit by that kid?
I would hate to face someone like that.
After all, they're only pushing each other on the line. How hard can that be?
Well, it's hard. Did you ever wrestle? Did you ever?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. In wrestling, you do what? You're also developmentally balanced.
You're classified by weight.
Yeah, a 98-pounder doesn't go up against a 215-pounder.
Right.
I'm a little bit concerned with this imbalance, but this is part of the coaching and developing the teams. If I was a coach, obviously I wouldn't put a 120-pounder on the line. Because he's not going to be able to be that's not size appropriate, developmentally appropriate. Maybe on the end.
There was one of the high schools a few years ago. A friend of mine was one of the football coaches there, where I think they had to forfeit their JV season or something. I forget what the deal was. They had 4 kids that weighed 260 pounds that had transferred into the high school, but because of CIF rules, they had to sit a year. They couldn't go on varsity, so they were on JV, and they were fine, and there were kids other schools were hesitant to let their JV kids play against these guys that were good enough for varsity, just couldn't go there. So, there's a big mismatch, and there's not a lot you can do about it with as many schools as you got around, unless you're just watching your scheduling.
All right, you understand the CIF
rules,
right? I don't. You obviously know a lot more about coaching and everything else, but I'm concerned that the kid doesn't get hurt,
Right.
And I know you are too.
Yes.
I know you don't want your kids hurt. So what do you do as a coach when you see that size, that developmental difference, and you've got somebody that's 160, 180 pounds that's going to go up against this big bruiser?
Well, we talked about that a little bit on our concussion show.
Yes.
We talked about educating, because we're talking about football. We're talking about educating the players on how to roll, how to fall, how to tackle. All that stuff. It's a learned behavior, if you will, when you're playing the sport, and you see it a lot especially in the NFL. That these players, they want to play the next play. They don't want to get hurt, and that's how they're playing.
Yeah, but there's been a lot that came up about concussion. And I understand why. The brain's rattling around. Of course, sometimes I think the brain's pretty small.
Our brains have been rattling around for years.
Yeah.
We're okay. What the heck?
Yeah. Not too much. That hasn't developed as much as the rest of the body.
Well, this is the end result.
But look at now. You put this helmet. How much does the helmet weigh?
Couple pounds.
Couple pounds. You put this helmet on. You've added this weight to the head, which is 8 to 10 pounds. And now, but what's protecting the neck, generally speaking? And you
With the helmets, I think they have a pad that goes down to the shoulders.
Not every player wears it.
Yeah, not only some of them.
Only some of them. And I have to admit it. When I watch football, occasionally, I'm looking for professional reasons.
We'll sign you up on our fantasy team. You'll start watching.
It's actually the intermission with all the. Never mind.
Yeah.
But I'm watching these guys get hit, and I'm watching that head and that neck. There's 7 little bones that connect your head to the rest of the body there, and there's a lot of trauma that goes by in that, and that's part of what we saw also in the research that we were doing on football players. So I have my concerns.
I think every parent that is going to let their child play football needs to do an internet search and go back and find the episode of Sports Science. I used to say it's Fox Sports. I don't know. It's maybe switched channels on the cable channels. Excellent show. They've done it. I would laugh at the one they had Jenny Finch striking out the baseball players and everything. But they had one with Quentin Jammer on there, who was middle linebacker, I think, or tight end for San Diego Chargers. And they had him. They were talking about spearing, which is, having your head straight with hitting somebody with your helmet straight on. And they showed a normal hit, and Jammer would hit their equipment or hit their tackling dummy, and they said his hit was, I think they said 4,000 pounds of force. They said it was the equivalent of a 25-mile-an-hour car crash.
My goodness.
Okay, so now they said, now go with your head down, but they had him go quarter speed because they didn't want him to get hurt. And they said, okay, again, the same kind of 25-mile-an-hour car crash. If his head was down, if you're the quarterback, your ribs are broken probably. But the bigger damage, and just Dr. Quay just mentioned, you got 7 little vertebrae there. If your head is straight, if I tackle you straight on, if I spear you, even if it's accidental, the bones don't know if it's accidental or intentional, right? If my vertebrae is straight when I hit you, my backbone just turned into a shock absorber. And guess where that shock went? It went right down those spines, and there's a good chance that one of them would snap, and I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, if I'm alive.
And we're just talking about one sport. And I don't want to put all the negatives on football. Look, in talking about age and developmental appropriate, this is an area that a lot of people don't think about because we're getting more and more popular in what's called soccer.
Right.
And and a lot of women play soccer, and we've had some great teams and everything else. But you talk about age appropriate and the neck and everything else. I had 2 young ladies come into my office. We checked out. Both of them, their necks bent the opposite direction.
Oh my goodness!
It's called your neck is supposed to bend forward, acting as a shock absorber. It pivots and everything else. Both of them, their necks actually curved the opposite direction, just like you would get from a good whiplash injury. The sad thing was
a good whiplash injury.
There's
a good whiplash.
We'll come back to that in a minute. We got to take a break here.
Okay.
Coach Mike and Kids in Sports in the Rant Radio Network Towers. What a view out here. We'll be back in just a minute.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
Ticketsurgeon.com. Reach us at 855-WIN-4-199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. The Ticketsurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4-199.
Welcome to the Monster Marketing Group, your one-stop shop for all your marketing needs. Anything you need to make that marketing and advertising campaign stand out, we're your people. Concepts, design, production, social media, anything that you can dream up, we're going to make happen for you. And we can do it in a very quick turnaround. Please give us a call at 888-49-MONSTER.
We're having a lot of fun here today at the Rant Radio Network. Coach Mike here. Kids in Sports, my co-host Alex Alanese, and our guest today, Dr. Gerald Croy, a local chiropractor who has also been involved. Some people like to knock chiropractic, but he's been involved with medical doctors, and especially in the area of kids and their sports. He's paid attention to that too. So he's a good guy, good information that he provides, and he's given me that we've either argued about or discussed one way or the other over the years. Dr. Croy, we were just talking about one of your pet peeves a minute ago, and that's the kids doing headers in soccer. It makes you a superstar if you can get up there and hit that ball 30 feet with your head.
And going back to what you had said earlier about developmentally, the development age appropriateness and everything else, I'm sorry. I would not want my daughter. You have a daughter? You have your daughter?
I have
of course,
five daughters.
Five. That's a shock on the system too. But I would not allow my daughter to be using her head to hit a ball out on that field.
Now, girls supposedly develop quicker than boys, so it's not okay for the girls?
They don't develop the upper body strength. They don't usually have the neck muscular development. I'm sorry. You take that young girl out there hitting that ball with her head, that ball comes in any kind of distance. There is a force that goes through there. And I truly believe, as before a commercial and everything else, when we were talking about those two young ladies that came into my office, that led to both of them having that the loss of the cervical curve that leads them to, they're going to have permanent injury in time.
Now was that were those injuries due to hitting the ball? Is that how they?
There's no way because I didn't check them before they started the sport and after. But the dynamics of the action, I believe, definitely can lead to that because you are using your head in a way that gives you whiplash-like injuries. In other words, we always think of whiplash as the car in the back hitting you. Well, there's a lot of other things that can cause you whiplash-like injuries, and I believe that using the ball in that way in a young, undeveloped neck is not a healthy thing to do.
Soccer's always been a sore subject here on the Kids in Sports.
Good. Let's talk more about it.
Well, no, we used to jokingly say there's a well-known sports talk show, so used to say soccer was not a sport because you can't be a sport if you could end up with a 0-0 score, But yet then his kid, when he had a kid, he got married, had a kid, his kid wanted to play soccer. But how much damage a soccer ball from 1937 on, FIFA, which is the governing body for soccer, had changed the weight from the weight used to be 13 to 15 ounces. Then they made it to 14 to 16 ounces.
You're talking about the soccer ball.
A soccer ball, 16 ounce, 1 pound.
That's a pound.
That's a
now,
pound.
Throw a pound across the field, kick it, whatever it might be, and coming at you. Now, how much does it weigh?
Well, I've hit the ball many times. I played 8 years soccer. And hit the ball many times.
Prime example.
I rest my case.
Okay, so my forehead's a little flat now. Okay, but that ball coming sometimes kicked across the field, and hitting that ball. I'll tell you, it feels like 20 pounds.
But you
and
did
very
it to
truthfully,
be cool.
it could maybe have been.
But you did it to be. It was cool to to hit it with your head instead of waiting for it to come down where you can kick with your foot.
You know, it's just about getting the ball on the other side of the field. I mean,
What player is really thinking? They're just
Now,
want
you Now, you
make the
talked
goal.
about developing and making sure they're ready. If I'm going to let my kid play football, he's got to be ready. And yet the other day I heard you complaining
I'm always complaining
about a kid that was preparing himself by weightlifting.
Yeah. There is preparation and there is preparation,
Is there over preparation?
Yes, very much so. Because we were talking on the show about how this kid probably weighs 120, 130 pounds.
How old?
15 years old. And he's in lifting 300 pounds, showing off that testosterone. Let me show you guys how strong I really am. I'm sorry. That's 300 pounds on that spine that is more than what I believe is healthy for it. So I set him down. I said, let's talk about reps. Let's talk about preparation. Let's talk about how you can strengthen your body, but not put it under undue stress, where you are more apt to injure it. You were talking about the way in which how'd you refer to that force?
The spearing.
The
spearing, yeah. And how, you can cause, as it goes down that spine, if there's a weakness or something like this, the damage you can do. I said that damage is permanent. And I don't want these kids to be hurt permanently. It's one thing to pull a muscle here or to stretch something and take it, because you're always taking the body to the nth degree in most sports. Running as fast as you can, throwing as hard as you can, getting the right spin or jumping or whatever it might be. You're pushing your body. That's the idea of the sport.
Yes.
And yes, you can do a little bit of damage, and you can rehabilitate that damage. But when you do damage to blows a disc or it fractures something and you have permanent injury, then I get very, very concerned.
Now, what is this young man looking at? Because he's obviously not lifting with his head, because when we're talking about the spear, we're talking about, I guess that's the most fragile part of the back is the neck there, right?
Well, that's
coming down there. So he's not going to be hitting there.
No.
What is it going to do? What is it doing? Or is this young man having a discomfort already or pain? Or
yeah. Remember I told you I those athletes, the football players, we did research on it. One of the injuries we saw is called buckling. That instead of the normal curve in your neck and the thoracic spine and the lumbar spine, which is kind of like forms like a little double S type thing, these are the normal curves that you're supposed to have from the side of the spine. When you look straight on the spine, it's supposed to be straight up and down. But from the side, you have these normal curves. And what happens with some of these forces, the old hit and lift in football, hit it, lift, hit, lift, hit, lift, it can cause in the area of the thoracic and lumbar area of the spine a buckling backwards. And every one of these, except one of these players, and there was a tight end that was mainly out running, had a buckling in their spine.
So this is the lower back we're talking about?
Mid to lower back.
Okay.
That junction of where it changes.
Before the tailbone.
No. Above the lower back, but just at the base of the ribs,
okay.
And just as you begin the lower back. And this is where this young man, in lifting that weight, was buckling or putting a lot more force in there than it was healthy for him. That's where he was hurting, and his mother was concerned about it and everything else. And I felt there was some injury.
Now, when they came to you, did they initially think the weightlifting was the reason for it, or are they thinking something else? Because it would seem to me, unless I slipped and dropped it or did something that hurt now, I might not even be thinking that that's the problem.
I believe they associated it mainly with the incident. But in most cases, it's kind of like my kids played the sports. Yeah,
okay.
It's football. It's just kind of the whole apparatus. But there was some indication that they were aware that he had overdone it. And it wasn't that he felt he had overdone it.
I say, would he admit it?
No, he didn't admit it.
I don't know, he's lifting the weight.
The girls are looking at him and saying, whoa.
Exactly,
because he was ready to get back in and do it again. I said, we have to have a serious talk here. I want him to play. I want him to enjoy the game, but I don't want him to be injured. I don't want him to do the best he can. But there's ways, there's training that doesn't require you lift twice into whatever your body weight, unless you're the sport is weightlifting itself.
Now, was he doing weightlifting as a sport, or was he preparing for football?
No, he was preparing for his sport. Actually, in fact, I think it was baseball.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that'd be good there too. But I'd see more for like a defensive player in foot, because he could throw the big lineman off of him real easy if he's that strong.
Yeah.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Mike, but if you do that kind of weightlifting when you're going to play baseball or softball, doesn't that inhibit some of your playing?
Well, yeah, it depends how you're looking at it. If you're looking at as far as batting goes, strong upper body strength is a plus. And this is usually we talk about the difference. They'll say there's difference between a softball swing and a baseball swing. Well, there really isn't. And there's been some studies done to show how the mechanics are the same. The difference is where the pitch is coming from. But when it comes to especially the girls, like Dr. Coy mentioned earlier, tend to be not blessed with upper body strength, nor do they want to be a lot. They don't, most of the girls don't want to go out there with these big muscles. What they want to, especially if they're a pitcher, they want to generate smaller, leaner, quicker muscles, because you want to move fast.
Just as an example, look at bodybuilding. I mean, these are women who their intent is to strengthen their body and develop their muscles as much as they can. And it will not develop as much as a man. It flat out hormonally or
that sounds
physically.
Sexist there, Dr. Quay.
Yeah. I mean, they get bigger, they're strong, they're lean.
I've seen some very big women.
Okay. But as far as their physical structure is different.
Not the same, yes.
Not the same.
They could argue all the civil rights or whatever they want to pick on.
Take a look at that.
It's not.
That's,
only Harvard would find a picture like that.
That's Manny's girlfriend right there.
Is that
so you tear your arms off.
But no, it's I'm sort of old school in that regard. There are differences between men and women, and that happens to be one. Are there some women that are going to be as big as guys? I had a third baseman, a coach playing at the one school for me, that was as good as any man I've ever seen playing third base in slow pitch. In slow pitch, you better be darn good at third base, or you better wear body armor. Okay, this gal was as good as any guy. I mean, it's, believe me, the ball's coming. This kid that played, her name was Danny. Unbelievable reflexes. She was quick. She was not a thin gal, nor was she extremely overweight. She was sort of, I guess you'd say, stocky. But she was very quick, a very good batter. She hit over 500 in high school, and I think she still holds some records at Golden West for home runs or what may be.
Yeah, so, but was it because she was working out extensively and overdoing it? I mean, that was a point of me breaking it up.
She worked the skills she needed to work.
And she developed her ability. She excelled in her ability. Yep. And hopefully she didn't get injured.
That's right.
And that's my concern.
The only injury she had, she tore or sprained her MCL, which I actually had a nurse come on my show one time a couple of years ago and tell me there's no such thing as an MCL. And I said, I don't argue with you because, she was a trained med, but I just read an article like a week after that from a very well-known orthopedist talking about an MCL. The other is one. Danny got hers injured in basketball when a kid did a layup, used Danny as a ladder and walked up to the basket. We got to take a quick break, Kids in Sports. We'll be right back.
Looking for a delicious, fresh family meal that's ready when you are and easy on your budget? Welcome to Piara Pizza. We make our pizzas with handmade dough, 100% real cheese, and tomato sauce blended with our own spices. Nothing is ever frozen. We always have large pepperoni and cheese pizzas fresh and waiting for you for only $5. Or choose one of our specialty pizzas. We have veggie, meat lovers, supreme, and Hawaiian. Add an order of our amazing hot wings, cheesy bread, or breadsticks. Our locations are ultra-modern, ultra-clean, and open 7 days a week. Visit any one of our locations today, or check us out on the web at www.piarapizza.com. Piara Pizza. Fresh, hot and ready for you when you come in. Stop in for your Piara Pizza today.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanch, and I'm always joined by
Edgar,
Carlos Mandrano, and this is a show where we talk about
comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the back.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
Okay, so there was a little begging involved. Take it easy.
How did Alex get to be on Kids in Sports? We'll figure that out. But for now, Coach Mike is back with you with our guest, Dr. Gerald Coy. And Dr. Coy, where do you draw a line? I was going to say how much is too much, but for each person, that's going to be different.
We have a society that likes to put everything in this is good for this is good for that, and it's what I call cookie cutter. Every kid is an individual. You know that each one of the kids that you've worked with, they're all individuals, and it's the same way with their development. There may be similarities, but I hate saying, well, this is the recipe for everybody. I think there's certain concerns you have to do. It's like every 13-year-old. Some of them are 6 foot, whatever. Others, you can swear they're only 8 years old in the development. Obviously, there has to be a different process for each and every individual. And what's nice is when you have a coach who recognizes whatever the team is, and he helps individualize the development.
I don't know. Are we? I guess I hear me. Do you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay,
I
we're
do not
good.
hear Dr. Coy.
Okay, we may have to redo that. Okay. No, we want to get that because again, we're not going to stop playing sports. You know, we love it. I mean, and like Alex's brother-in-law said the other day when we were having this discussion, he says, "Oh, you're not going to get rid of contact sports." Well, I don't know about it. When it comes to the schools, yeah, they can do it. They might get a big backlash for a while, but they've kicked sports out of some schools. Where was the backlash then?
Kids are going to fall out of trees.
Right.
You're not going to cut down all the trees.
Right.
Kids are going to get hurt riding bicycles. You're not going to get rid of all the bicycles any more than we're going to get rid of all the cars because we have auto accidents. But you try to make it reasonably as safe as possible. I know you mentioned in the past about sometimes the safety issues being overdone. Is putting a field out that players can play on where they don't get injured better? Yeah, there's less injuries. Should all fields have it? I don't know. Can it be afforded? There's a lot of running tracks. The hard surfaces, the shin splints, and the knee damage to knees and everything else that can be prevented. I wanted some more kids can play. Less injuries are there, but I don't want to necessarily ban the sports.
Well, I say if it's at some point, if you change the sport too much, you are taking away from the sport. Now, does that mean, a big topic that comes up in the baseball and softball world is the bat issue, because you got 100-mile-an-hour pitches coming in, getting hit back at 100 miles an hour, and if the pitcher, of course, is the closest one, and he gets hit or she gets hit. A lot of times severe damage has been done.
Who's the one that just got about fractured jaw?
Okay, yeah, I didn't even see that one. Somebody was telling me that the other day. Well, there was
Not that I was watching it, but yes.
a fractured jaw. I would rather have that than a couple of years ago. This one gal down here in Orange County, she was wearing one of the masks, and the ball hit her in the forehead. And she said she could feel her skull sort of cave in a little bit. And I'm hoping she's okay now. The mask, they're definitely saying the mask saved her life. But now here's the thing. It's been suggested we go back to the softball area. You're talking about baseball. Was it the 60s? I think it was part of the 60s where they had the softer ball. But we don't want that because we don't want to give up our home runs. We don't want to. We don't, even though that would probably they go after the bat manufacturers and say you can't make your bat have so much reflex.
Well, I think they really should use Nerf balls, frankly.
Well, you could go too far there. But again, they're putting it all. I happen to know an owner of a bat company, and he says, they're always putting it on them. Why don't they soften the ball a little bit? Even a little bit would help. But yet, we keep going one side. We don't want to give up our home runs. Just like going to the who goes to a NASCAR race to see the race? You want to see the wrecks.
accident. You want to see the wrecks.
I mean, nobody will admit that, but let's face it.
Well, maybe a few passes now and then, but a wreck. You want to see a wreck. That's.
I remember, again, I was in middle school, and I remember that coach saying, "Get out there and kill him!" That attitude, that desire to see injury versus see the sport.
Yeah.
That worries me.
Well, I agree, and that's very wrong. There's an unwritten rule in baseball that if the pitcher hits your guy, your pitcher's going to throw at their guy. And now they throw the pitchers out and throw the managers out and the whole ball of wax. But yet you look at, since we're out in the L.A. area, one of our most well-known pitchers, Don Drysdale, was famous for high inside pitch. If you weren't ready to duck, you were going to get clobbered. But, I mean, that was part of the game.
Yeah, again, as a doctor, you're looking to prevent the injuries. And, what guidelines there needs to be, I don't know. Yeah, and what's too far, I don't know. But when I see like the cage fighting and I'm sorry, boxing and things like this, where it's deliberate intent, the intent is to do harm, I just kind of cringe.
I've always wondered about that. I boxed one time. I got in a ring one time in my life, and I got knocked out in the first round. That was enough.
You got knocked out?
Well,
knocked down.
Not completely. It was okay. What it was when I was learning to drive truck back in '77, and the guy that was trained was a guy named Paul Metzela. His handle on the CB was Superman. The guy was 6'3", 235, big arms. He had been a heavyweight boxer. I think he said his record was 6-0. He quit because his wife didn't like boxing. So he lived in Flagstaff. I lived in Phoenix. They were training me to do this route northern Arizona. So we're going through Flagstaff, and Paul would tell me there was 2 bars in Flagstaff at the time. One was called Shaky Drake's, I think it was. I forget the name of the other one. We didn't go to Shaky Drake's because they said that was the one where all the football players were. But you could go in there, and you would pay $5, I think it was, and the rule was you had to have no boxing experience. You could not be Golden Gloves, or you had to be totally amateur, totally no experience. That was me. And you had big gloves.
I can't wait to hear this one.
You had big gloves.
Yeah.
Okay. So you couldn't really get hurt that much, I guess. And so, and you was weight. They would match you up with somebody about your size. So I get in the ring with this guy. I was in pretty good physical shape back then. I mean, I was about 6 foot tall. I was about 185. And I used to run. I ran cross country in high school. So I'm dancing, I'm doing the shuffle here, and this guy's going on. And I've neither one of us was winning greatly, but I think I had a little bit of an edge on him. I had a slight size advantage on the guy. I know I was stronger than him. It was pretty obvious. So the one time he I put a jab out, as I recall, and he put both hands up to stop my jab, which left him wide open. I thought, oh, boy, I got it. So here I come with my right. Well, it tended to be a bit of a haymaker, a big round swing. And he ducked back just far enough for me to miss him. And so I lost my footing, and I spun around. And when I came around, he nailed me in the nose. And I sat down, and I'm sitting there, pretty woozy. I wasn't knocked out completely. I kidded Paul later. I said what a lousy corner man he was, because the bell, I was only like 10 seconds before the end of the round. If I got to the end of the round, I think I could have got up and beat this guy. But I'm just sitting there, when you're in that situation, time seems like, you don't know what time is. Oh, man, get me out of here. So I just stayed sit down, let him win. And I still got, I think if you lost, you got $8 back, and the winner got $12, so whatever. You got a free drink. My nose was plugged up for a week, even with these soft gloves. So thank you. That was enough for me.
There's still force coming into even with soft gloves. No, I'm sorry. It's just I saw a movie called Real Steel, and now I think that's the future for boxing as far as I'm concerned. That's where they use robots.
Okay.
And you have a little Game Boy type thing, and the machines do all the boxing. That's where I think it needs to go personally.
Well, that's where football's going too, I think.
Yeah.
You see it on the NFL commercials. They have
Yep.
They have that little mechanical dude that comes out.
Yep. Well, they got the Transformers, like the Transformers, yeah. And I think isn't there some movie or something about the Transformers playing football or?
Well, there was a gamer movie, but it was more military stuff.
Oh, okay.
But now with all the gaming out there, you would think that that's going to be the next generation.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because you have all of these kids now that are playing football, baseball, basketball on their video games, and they were able to control, hypothetically speaking, a robot unit.
Well, there used to be a show on your cable channels on, I think it was Saturday or Sunday morning, called Robot Wars. Mm-hmm. And they would actually create these robots, and they would go into a ring and battle each other. And one guy had made a buzz saw. And he took a saw blade, and it would cut in through the other guy's robot. And the other one, guy made one that would flip him over. It was pretty cool.
The Caltech competition, yeah.
So it was
so instead of telling our kids, hey, let's be careful out there on the field, you're going to be telling them, hey, get out on the field, because I'm sick of sitting here by the two playing a game,
But I'm more apt to want to, Coach Mike said, I did cross country. I more say, hey, let's get you into some running. Let's get you into some other things that I would rather, for my kids anyway, I'd rather they not be in contact sports if possible.
But you tell me running's no good. I got you on this one.
No, running. It's not. Running is okay. It's have you had injuries and traumas to the joints that the joint is degenerating? Then there's times when running is not a good sport for you, and then you need to get into a pool. You need to get into a swimming program and everything else. But for those people who like the run, I would prefer the running. Though I have a lot of people that run that I tell them you need to get off of it because of injury to the ankles, injuries to the knees, injuries to the hips. And I said, this is not your sport right now. Again, looking at individuals and the individual bodies.
How do they come up with it? I don't know where they come up with those figures. I generally believe a certain amount of science stuff. When it comes to like environmental stuff, there's a lot of it I don't buy into. But like that's the one thing that I always question when they said that when you're running, your foot hits the ground, you're something like 200 or 300 pounds per square inch or something.
Yeah.
Come on, is that, if I weigh 200 pounds, but my foot is what, 12, 15 square inches? That seems like a lot more force than seems reasonable.
There's a lot of force going into those feet.
Okay, we're going to talk about that when we get back from the break here. Coach Mike, Kids in Sports in the Rant Radio Network.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m., where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on RantRadioNetwork.com.
We are the Three Guys Rant with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the three guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The other one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69-3-GUYS. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
The biomechanics of foot strikes and applications to running barefoot or in minimal footwear. Very interesting. Heel striking, I'm just trying to see. I forgot my glasses today, so I'm not. So hopefully the numbers come out bigger here. Oh, I know. Give me a little sympathy. Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports. We're talking with my guest today, Dr. Gerald Coy, a local chiropractor who is very involved in treating young people for different kinds of injuries having to do with overuse or stress on their skeletal system. I'm trying to see the one where they put the hundreds of pounds. I mean, I've seen some amazing numbers, and I just think, where do they come up with it? It's hard to believe that just running, the force of running. I mean, I could see it if I was jumping. When I was a kid, I used to like jumping out of a swing. I'd swing, see how high I could swing and how far we could jump.
Yeah, jumping off the top of this or a second floor of that or whatever it might be. We're all, and these are extremes. So this is usually, and of course, if it's too high or too hard, we break. I remember we said you're not going to cut down the trees because you fall out of a tree, but there's kids that fall out of trees and break an arm or break a leg or break something else because it is too much force. Anytime you put faster, harder, more weight, more speed to anything, you're increasing the forces onto the body, or whether it be running or throwing, and then you may tweak a little bit. You're a coach of softball. What does it change in the shoulder motion to get maybe a curveball or this pitch or that pitch? I watched some of these pitches and I'm looking at that arm. I said, I didn't know the arm could do that motion.
Well, and in softball, the arm doesn't do it; it's the wrist.
Okay,
baseball though.
The wrist, and this is the thing. We were, I know we'll get back to the feet, but there is extremes that we do to our wrist, to our elbows, to our shoulders, to our knees. Tiger Woods, what did he have? He developed a knee injury from all the twisting and torquing and everything else that was going on in golf. It's considered, well, unless you're playing with Gerald Ford, in the old days, it was one of the safest sports. But each sport, and we had talked about that. We talk about this in the book, that you have to identify what are the needs, not only for the child, but what developmental, what strengthening needs is required for that sport to prevent the injuries.
I'm trying to see how they got it in nanoseconds or some other. Maybe those are newtons. 2,000 newtons. The rear foot phase, the actual shock of heel contact creates an impact of up to 3 times the body weight.
This is why we talk about the shock absorption of shoes. I mean, the shoes they're making nowadays absorb the vast majority of the shock. There's still force going into it. It's why we have helmets and the change of helmets, improvement in the helmet. This is why we have all these different apparatus to make it safer, so that running is safer. These shoes absorb a lot of that shock. How much? I don't know. I don't get into the nano this and the.
They better
pounds
absorb
per-
a lot of the cost of these cotton picking shoes. I mean,
Hey, Coach Davis, but aren't we sensationalizing that a bit? I mean, aren't we designed to be able to run a bit? I mean, I've
yes, we are.
I've heard of stories of the Mexican runners running from Mexico City to the ocean to get fish for the king,
which is fine, but I think they only live to be about 28 years of age too.
Well, the fish was good, you know.
But the fish was fresh. The other thing is they weren't running on concrete. They weren't running on asphalt. They were running on dirt. They were running on turf. They were running on sand. So there's a big difference, and this is one of the things we talk about, is the fact that for the football players playing where some of the dirt they were playing on got so hard that they were breaking bones and doing damage to the body, that they started requiring, and some of the tracks they have now.
well, the AstroTurf for a while, which I think they've gotten rid of in most play, but that literally had an asphalt base underneath of it.
And that's hard. You fall on that, you're going to get hurt. The body was designed to do all the things that you talk about, but look at the conditions that we have that they're performing in, whether it be they're running, it's on the streets or on the concrete. People who like to run, I tell them, I says, try to get more on towards turf, try to get on the tracks and stay off concrete if possible, because I want them to continue to enjoy the sport. I don't want them to have the knee replacements and hip replacements and whatever it might be from the continuous irritation. I want them to enjoy it for as long as they possibly can.
Now we're seeing some visuals up here about folks running without shoes. I mean, in my personal opinion, I could see why that would damage my feet.
Well, yeah,
for different reasons.
Oh,
but I had a coach one time in soccer that told me that I should be running almost on my tippy toes,
the balls of your feet,
on the balls of your feet,
right.
and not landing flat
right
on your foot. That was. I mean, is that true? Is that?
Well, there's a different biomechanical, the traumas that goes into the body. If you're running and you're putting speed into it and you're coming down harder on that ground, some people seem to fly.
Yeah. Well, if you're going for sprinting, you want to be up on the balls of your feet. Well, even like getting ready in softball, we have what we call being softball ready, and we'll tell the fielders, as the pitcher starts their motion, you take a 3-step creep. And the idea is to get them up more on their toes so that they're ready to react. If you're flat on your feet, you don't react as quickly.
You watch the Olympics?
Sure.
You watch the runners? Look at the runners, and there's a difference in their training, their coaching, their preparations, everything else, but there's a difference in their style. And sometimes the way they're running, they're not going to last as long. They may last.
Well, they're throwing their arms up here, like.
No,
you know?
But watch their legs and watch how some of them, the way they pound the pavement or the field, they're throwing their body harder. This is the part of the muscular reaction to how they're running, and they are adding a lot more trauma, a lot more pounds per square inch.
I don't know. I think it'd be less because I think some of these guys are almost flying these days.
That's it. Yes,
they're just touching it, you know.
Yeah, they're just barely keeping it
it's
going.
It's kind of just floating along there.
Actually, a few years ago, I had the opportunity to meet Asafa Powell. He was here. He was sort of the spokesperson at the Orange County Marathon. He's been beaten lately by Usain Bolt. The last guy's name's Bolt. Just set, I think, the new record for the 100 meters now at 9:77 or something like that. Amazing speeds, these guys. Although when you look back, I was like, what is the world record of the mountain? I'll have to look that up. How much you think, how far have we come? Jim Ryan set the mile record 40-some years ago at 350, I think 351 or something like that. I think we're still only at 340. So 10 seconds in 40 years.
That's a long time.
But that's, it also shows the mile is a sprint anymore. We just think a mile is distance. No, for the elite athletes, the mile is a sprint. The marathon is literally a sprint. When I ran cross country in high school, I averaged 5:30 a mile for 3 miles. These guys, when you run a marathon in 2 hours and 10 minutes, I think is the world record. Average that out, I think it's about 5 minutes a mile for 26 miles. I mean, that's moving.
That's a little bit of endurance going on.
There's a lot of endurance going on there.
Stamina and endurance.
Oh, and I always wanted. That was one goal I always had. Don't know if I'll ever get there to run a marathon, but don't ever think I'll make it now. I mean, I'd be happy to make it at any time. If it took me 6 hours, I'd be happy. I'd like to be able to finish from start to finish, but I don't know. I remember, Dr. Coy, another type of injury, and I don't remember if you recall what it was, but my daughter, you said one time, part of her back was going the wrong way. She was a softball player, played a little volleyball.
But what else was she? What else did she do? What was her primary position?
Pitcher.
Exactly. When I see young athletes coming in that've played for a year or 2 or 3 or something like this, and they've worked in developing their skills, I can usually tell you which one on a team. I'll tell you who's a pitcher.
What would pitching have made her?
Because you're using,
was it up or lower? What was that?
You're using one side of the body a lot more. You bowl with one arm, you pitch with one arm.
Well, no, she had drills for the other arm too, though, to keep that from happening.
And that's what I always encourage. I always make sure you're balancing out your exercise. But with some athletes, they get so focused. Some of your young players that, oh, wow, I can do this and I can do this better. And so they do more of it and more of it and more of it. And they don't necessarily listen to your advice. And they're there and they're practicing and they're throwing and they keep working it. And you'll see the change in development. It's not that she had it, but there is a tendency towards that kind of imbalance.
I think you said hers was sort of an opposite scoliosis.
You can develop it, but it can also be due to the falls. It can be due to other injuries. It could be when she was learning to ride a bicycle and ran into the garage or something like this. We are the product of all of the physical activities. It's just that when some of those physical activities, and you mentioned the word repetitive traumas, this repetitive. When you're learning to bowl, or you're learning to throw a ball, or you're willing to do something on one side of the body, and you do a lot of it, it becomes a repetitive trauma.
Yeah. Now we luckily with her and for all you pitchers parents out there, baseball or softball, we got her very first pitching coach when she first started, 8 years old. This one lady we quit after a bit because an 8-year-old, she wasn't ready to put the work in.
That's a lot of work.
But at least we got to start. But the one thing, because that lady's daughter was a pitcher as well, and she said, make sure you have her take her glove hand, and if she pitches 100 pitches with this side, do 100 rotations with this side, because what happens, the muscle builds up one side and they're off balance. Her daughter had some issues, back issues, because she was off balance. And so that was something we learned really on early to watch that.
We talk about in food. We talk about a balanced diet, everything really gets in moderation and balance when it comes to the human body as to how it can perform. Obviously, in sports, you want to get something to excel, whether that's your pitch or your jump or your run or whatever aspect of physical needs for that particular sport might call upon you. But it's so important to make sure the body's in balance if you don't want to have further or have injuries coming about from it. The coach was doing the right thing, making sure that the other side was getting the exercise. And also even with the weightlifter, making sure that when you lift weights, you're lifting with both arms, not just one arm.
Okay, Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports. We have one more segment, I believe, or 2 more? 2 more. Oh, cool. Usually I'm caught the other way around.
I would have told you, Coach Mike.
You would have helped me out? You got it right? Thank you, Alex. We'll be back in just a minute.
We are the Three Guys Rant with Arvin, Mike, and Phil.
Coming to you on the Rant Radio Network every Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can call us at 855-69 The Three Guys.
It's not the three guys. This is why you should turn in, because one has Tourette's. The
You
other
really-
one's illiterate.
You really should listen in. You never know what's going to happen.
855-69 3 guys. G-U-Y-S and the number 3, not the.
Faces for radio, voices for the deaf.
Look forward to talking to you.
Hey, I'm audio candy. I don't know about you guys.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on rantradionetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the Three Guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
We're the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanj, and I'm always joined by
Edgar.
Carlos Medrano, and this is a show where we talk about
Comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the back.
Parenting issues, we will do another show on parenting issues. I love to tell people how to parent their kids.
Yeah.
I am the expert.
I bet you would, Coach Mike.
Coach Mike, your Kids in Sports on the Rant Radio Network. You know, it's funny when we talk about parenting our kids. And it's like nobody wants you to nobody wants somebody else to tell them how to parent their kids, and then they can't handle their kids, and they're begging for help on parenting their kids.
and they push them off on you.
They
drop them off on practice and see you later. I'll be back in 3 hours.
When I was coaching 8 and under, I had one young lady in particular. What really irritated me, you know, it didn't bother me as much at practice. It didn't bother. I think it was 10 and under. It didn't bother me quite as much at practice, but like a game on Saturday, Mom would drop the daughter off for her game and go get her nails done.
She had no interest.
Wow.
And she had, I don't have any other time. Give me a break. Now I know better because my daughter goes to get her nails done. And it's, it'd be 10 minutes. She's back. How'd you get that done?
If it was something else, like maybe she had to go to work or do something, but go do her nails. Come on.
But we had talked before about parents involved in the sports aspect. It's the parents who have set the guidelines. It's the parents who are going to create the situation where these kids get injured or don't get injured. It's the parents who are going to have to be part of it.
Right.
And not just send the kid off and hope to goodness that the school, the coach, and everything else is going to make sure that they're okay. Parents have to be involved too. They have to be aware.
And is this something going on with our society now too? We got, again, a two-sided monster, so to speak. You got parents that are supposedly able to, they trust the coaches, but we're not supposed to be their babysitters, but they trust us to that level. And yet then they turn around and say, well, when there's some coaches do violate their trust or whatever, then where were the parents? And so you get the parents can't be there all the time. There's a part of it that you should be able to trust the coach, hopefully to the highest levels. But at the same time, parent involvement is how many kids have I had on my show? How many adults have I had that they said the support they got from their parents when they were going through it was very important to them. And yet I have other ones that it's like, where's mom or dad?
And we've talked about parents who are try to be in control.
Right.
We talk about the coaches supposed to be in control, but parents try to be in control, and that they're pushing their kids, and they're pushing them beyond, and where kids are losing interest because of their parents. And I remember in our book we were discussing about how the parental involvement and the parents are so important to encourage your kids, but not if the kid is losing interest, why? You had mentioned this about if the kid comes home and they really don't want to go to practice and they really don't want to really go to the game.
What's going on there?
What's going on? And also they need to be aware this is where injuries can be. You know, is there a change in your kid's posture? Is your kid limping? Is your kid discussing discomfort? Is your kid having headaches at nighttime? Is your kid having trouble sleeping? Is there a weight change that's not for the purpose of getting a little bit beefier for the front line, but there's a change in that a child, a young girl is maybe in some sort of sport where she feels she needs to lose weight and keeps losing it. There are so many signs that the parents have to be aware of to help the kid stay healthy. We're talking about healthy kids in sports.
Right.
We want them to be healthy. We want them to stay healthy, and that the parents have to be involved with that.
Well, you kind of said something right now that kind of brought back to memory. You know, you can tell if a kid is in a certain sport just by the way they walk and the way they look sometimes. You can tell if a girl's a dancer or you can tell if a guy's a football player.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can tell those things. In softball, they have a certain stance and a certain figure to them in softball that you can tell, well, yeah, they're a softball player. You can kind of tell. And it's because maybe they're developing those particular muscles. And
well, I don't know if I would be so good as to be able to tell you what sport they're in, but you
can
will
tell if they're in sports.
Exactly.
Well, that too, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually compared to the kid that's kind of like just slumping over his Game Boy type thing, or is out of shape, or it doesn't have, because that's the purpose of sports also, is to be the exercise for the child's development. I want them to be healthier. Your body needs exercise. We had talked before about how many kids are in sports, and my desire is for all kids to have some physical activity. Enjoy it. Have a good time. Enjoy the teamwork or the companionship or the involvement of doing these things, and not just be going home and watching the boob tube.
Well, the message that was missed, I think, a long time ago with a lot of, especially in the school system. What was it back in the 70s? They took sports out of a lot of schools. Now, sometimes it was because of money, but more often I think the bigger thing, because when I was in high school, we used to take showers for PE and everything else. They took all away. Why? Because there was a self-esteem, because the fat kid felt bad about himself because the kids would tease. The kids can be brutal with each other. We know that. Okay.
But who needs it most?
Well, but did the message ever go? Should we look down on somebody because they're overweight or they're this or that? No, that's an adult. That's a different thing that you grow into. But why wasn't a message put? If you worked a little bit harder, you wouldn't be overweight. Now, when we get to a certain age, there's times where, yes, we might have a medical condition that makes that much more difficult. But at 10 or 12 or 13 years old, instead of giving a message out there that, number one, more physical activity and eating habits changed will help you not be overweight. The kids won't laugh at you. Now you'll be the star. Or also a message to all the kids that, look, let's help encourage that young person to be more active and get involved and do the best they can. We never heard that message come out until the 90s that I remember. Now, maybe it was out there in some circles, but in the 90s and even in the 2000s, what do I tell my players? There's two things you can control: your attitude and your effort. Worry about yourself. Take care of yourself. Encourage your teammates. Why can't we put more of that out there and less of, let's don't do this because this child will be hurt over here or that child will be offended. Instead of playing to the 1%, let's help make the 1% better. We got away from that. And let's go to another part of that, stress. At what point, you're involved in the field, Dr. Coy, the chiropractic field over there, and still takes a lot of hits because of soft tissue injury. You can't prove these injuries, supposedly. The court battle after court, doctors are on you a little bit. I'd say to a large degree in the medical side, stress is the same way. How are you going to prove what level? But at some point, isn't there a certain amount of stress that's going to make the body more susceptible to injury?
Oh, yes. we've talked about the physical stress. We're just talking, normally you think of stress as being the emotional aspect to it, but health is a matter of physical, mental, and social well-being. Take that as your definition of health, and for healthy kids. Physical, mental, and social well-being. There's nothing that can be better for a young person than sports, because it fulfills all three of those very well in one area. Physical, yes, the physical activities. I think of the heavyset kid, and I'm thinking, gee, if I was a coach, I'd be wanting to get him on the football line, plug that hole.
Yep.
But not that would be the best, but in the sense that where can that kid participate? Instead of, well, he can't, and he's this, and he's that.
He can't run the 110
Where is
flat.
the positive for that kid?
Right.
And then in the mental aspect, you have leaders and you have followers. You know this in your team. Who is it how do you bring out the best of those? It's okay to be a follower. But to follow well, to follow instructions, to do the best job from the coaching and from the plan that's been set before you. Because sometimes...
what about strategy?
Oh, but there's the thinkers. Most of it's supposed to come from, I think, from the coach. But you do have the leaders, and sometimes the leaders want to go their own way. But how to get them into that team, how to form that team. I mean, coaching is a hard job when you deal with all those aspects. So the physical, mental, and social, to make sure there is, that the overall riding issues are in dealing with, these are a group of young people out to have a good time and to enjoy and to head towards adulthood in the best way you can lead them. So to me, those are the three main issues in dealing with healthy kids in sports.
So it's like a three-legged stool. If you take one leg out,
it's harder to sit.
It's going to be harder to sit. It's going to affect the other two.
Yeah.
And so the stress on not the physical, but emotional stress on the body sort of could be, I don't know if, from a expert standpoint, as far as taking the blood away from this part of but it leads you maybe not to be paying attention to other parts of your body, for one thing.
Would you like to be 15 or 16 again?
I don't know.
I would.
Sometimes
you would. I wouldn't, because that is one of the hardest times in life.
In your
even
case,
emotionally speaking.
Yeah. In your case, you didn't have fire back then. I'm sure that made it really difficult.
Well, but we had to. I kept trying to make it.
Fire, come on.
I couldn't resist.
But it is. It's a very hard thing to go from a child into a young adult. There's that transition,
right.
And that's primarily the peak period of time that you're dealing in sports. So
I still haven't got into it, but that's.
And so the hormones are raging, the relationships are developing, the friendships, the bullying you talked about, the conflicts that come with it. Sports is such a great outlet for these things, and to learn the lessons you need to learn in developing your life. That's the reason why I would like all kids to be able to participate as much as possible. And the kid that's way too heavy, they need it. They let there be special counseling that works them into the group, not just, well, let's exclude everybody attitude.
Was it you telling me the other day about a kid that had been way overweight?
Yeah. He was one of the pudgy guys there that was on the Game Boys and everything. And I don't know why it clicked or who said
say,
what.
400 or 500 pounds, something was?
No, he was just pudgy. We're talking about another 15-year-old athlete. That's
I thought you said it was like extremely heavy.
No, he wasn't. He was just heavy set, and something clicked on him about sports. And all of a sudden, he started trimming down, and now he's the picture of a 15-year-old in high school and everything else. A whole transition in life. This is a wonderful place for kids.
And you know what? I want to make sure we get back from the break. It's not just the heavy kids, too. There's stress that goes the other way. Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports, the Rant Radio Network. He'll be back.
Hey, bro, this is a good game. You know what would make it better?
What, bro?
A michelada.
A michelada? What's a michelada?
A michelada is somewhere in the middle of a Mexican Bloody Mary and a Mexican margarita.
Oh, I got you covered, bro.
You got a cup in your pocket?
No, sir. I got my pocket-sized michelada. Mucho macho michelada.
Pocket size?
Pocket size, so you can take it with you anywhere you go.
Where'd you get that at?
At the nearest convenience store, and you can also buy it at muchomachomichelada.com.
You know what will make it better? After we get drunk, if they had a line we could call.
We can call their drunk line. You can leave a message and then log on to the site and listen to your stupidity afterwards.
What's that number?
It's 855-MICHE-69.
What's that number again?
855-MICHE-69.
Awesome. Mucho macho michelada.
The experts know that for pastry, Baker's Bodega has it all. Exclusive brands like Westco Bankmark, Satin Ice, and Pastry Pride. One-on-one day seminars for cake decorating and gelatin art. So for our service, wide range of ingredients and supplies, and for the low prices, Baker's Bodega has it all. But you don't need to be an expert. Baker's Bodega, 7869 Paramount Boulevard in Pico Rivera. Come, we're waiting for you.
Theticketsurgeon.com. Reach us at 855-WIN-4-199.
Did you get caught speeding, texting while driving, or doing anything else you weren't supposed to do?
Give us a call. Don't miss work. Don't lose out on the money. Don't get any more points. What about your insurance? Let us fight for you. Theticketsurgeon.com at 855-WIN-4-199.
Welcome to the Monster Marketing Group, your one-stop shop for all your marketing needs. Anything you need to make that marketing and advertising campaign stand out. We're your people. Concepts, design, production, social media, anything that you can dream up, we're going to make happen for you. And we can do it in a very quick turnaround. Please give us a call at 888-49-MONSTER.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to repeat that. Coach Mike here. Kids in Sports on the Rant Radio Network. If you want to be a part of our fun, you're always welcome to join us. And come on in, mix it up with us in studio. And be a sponsor of this show, by golly. Give me a call. And either here at 855-969-RANT or send me an email, Coach Mike at Kids in Sports, and help keep us on the air with your sponsorship dollars. And you know what? I'll do you a favor. I'll promote your business. How about that?
Yes, we will.
Now, just to be fair, it's easy. The world often does pick on the overweight. And for whether it's the Barbie doll syndrome we got to, but it actually, I think there's as much or more stress sometimes on our young people to go the other way. And it's still in the same package. At the one school I coached at one time, I actually had a young lady who came to my summer camp. She was an incoming freshman, and she would have been one of my players, and I think she probably would have done pretty decently. First day at camp, she's apologized. She made a few errors. I think I had her at shortstop. Made a few errors, and I tell the girls, look, I'm not going to judge you on one day to begin with, okay? And secondly, this isn't trial now. This is camp. This is the time where you learn, so don't worry. But she apologized. I told her. The end of the practice that day, she came to me and she's got tears just flowing down her face. Oh, how bad she did, and I kept trying to tell her, look, don't worry about it, don't worry. Well, then I got a call a couple of weeks later, or maybe Ron maybe come out to the camp and saw me and said we're going to have to send her to treatment. And it wasn't just on the softball field, it was in the classroom too. This young lady, beautiful young lady, very nice young lady, very thin. She absolutely had no worry about her weight, but yet she did. And she put so much pressure on herself everywhere in her life. And they finally had to send her treatment. Then when she got done with the treatment, they actually sent her to a different school because they felt if they put her back in with the same friends, she would go right back to the same habits and put that same pressure. And it's the same thing I keep trying to tell my players. The worst thing you can do is compare yourself to somebody else. It's great if you want to idolize a player or use them, emulate them, and try to be like some of the things. Like we had a young lady I had on the show here a month or so, Kaylee Puloa, who got a ride to a scholarship to Georgia, and had an excellent year playing for Georgia this year. Great to try to be like Kaylee in a way. She's a very respectful young lady, great attitude, worked hard, great athlete. Try to be like her, but you're never going to be her. You can't be the best her.
You're an individual.
You can only be the best you can be, and I can't stress that to my players enough, because that's where a lot of this they're the peer pressure, and I can't imagine. I don't think I had that much peer pressure when I was in high school.
There can be the parent pressure, the peer pressure, sometimes the coach pressure, whatever it might be, but that all develops inside of you. That's where we were talking earlier about the stress, and all of a sudden trying to quote please everybody, and end up not pleasing anybody, especially yourself.
Well, in the social arena too, I think maybe young ladies that are thinner than most or heavier weight. A lot of the rest of us look at that as a weakness, or maybe a will not to be disciplined.
But even then, how can you look at this like this young lady? I mean, I can't imagine what her weight was. Those guys don't talk about.
Well, sometimes it's a misinterpretation.
Well, no, but they still, and I've heard this from other coaches and other people at times, where you'll have a young lady. Let's say she weighs 100 pounds. I'm just pulling a number out of air there, and yet they'll think, oh, I need to lose 20 pounds. No, you don't. You're fine.
Where are you going to lose?
Where are you going to lose it? I mean, and even if they're a little pudgy, there's a big difference between a little pudgy and being significantly obese. There's a big difference there.
I was watching some television in which they were talking about there's a modeling agency that is hiring plus-size women. They are booking, and their models just hand over fist, because there is a need, and this interpretation that we all have.
Studio audience.
There we go. That we all have to look like that thin person for the girls. That thin model and everything else is unrealistic. I'm sorry. I saw Dolly Parton, who's now 67 years of age. I saw her, and her waist, I think, is still a 17, but the upper body is still as Dolly Parton is, and it's still Dolly Parton. She is who she is, and she's proud of who she is.
That's terribly sexy.
Hey, this is a kid's show.
All right. But the idea is that, again, you are proud of who and what you are, whether, no matter what the race you come from, the size of your body, the height of your body, you've got to be pleased with who you are, and then do the best you can. But it starts with that the training that comes from the parents and the family. Are they instilling this in their kids? Or are they, they say, well, you're really not as pretty as your cousin.
Right. Well, the old message, here's what bothers me. I totally agree. We should not be, bullying people, picking on people because they're fat, too skinny, too tall, too short. I mean, I pick on a friend of mine at church that's too short, but he takes
when they're older than you.
Well, that's easy. No, that's okay. That's open game. That's open game. No, but I got a friend of mine who's a short guy, and he knows it. And he dishes it out. Just you get to some people, that you take it in stride. Now, I imagine when he was younger, maybe it was more of an issue for him. I don't know. But what bothers me on the obese side is that we've gotten so big into the message about we shouldn't bully these people and everything, but there's never the message is taken away that they can do something better, and maybe they've given up a little bit. They need the encouragement, but instead they go into a shelter, and that's where I'd like to see that encouragement, that don't just say it's okay. Like if I was on drugs, okay, maybe I've toned down and I only do drugs once a month. Don't tell me that's okay, because it's still not.
Still not okay.
I need to get better. And I would say, I just saw that one TV show special about the guy that weighed 1,100 pounds or something like that. And they had to cut a section of his wall out to try to the ambulance wasn't big enough he couldn't fit in the ambulance.
That the Samoan guy?
Yeah. It was unbelievable. The guy finally died. You're going to die sooner. Yeah. How can we help you? What can we do to encourage you? But and I understand. I mean, there's a lot of reasons people go into a depression to where they don't think they can do anything. They give up, and that's what I'd like to be able to find a way to help. And whether it's sports that does that, whether it's music does that, or something else, is don't take away the message. you want to solve this bullying side. We want to get rid of that. I agree there 100%. But some people are going to do that. But let's take the message also that we should totally leave people alone, let them do whatever they want. It's okay.
Well, there's an old saying about doing it with love.
Yeah.
That you care about this person, you love this person, they're their friend and everything else, but you want them to, you want them to stick around, you want them to be healthier, you want them to be happier, and to be able to participate in that with an honest, caring aspect. That you need to quit smoking, or hey, those 2 drinks, that's enough.
Right.
Let's stop. That's not your best interest. Or, you really shouldn't say that. It really hurts people. To be honest and caring about your criticism and not hurtful about your criticism. Right. You're talking about bullying versus about caring. It's okay to care. And I'd like to help you with this, or can I help you with this, or what can I do to assist you in making your life better? That's being a good friend.
I think for our young people, when we get older, like I got a neighbor that's him and his wife smoke. I kid him every now and then, but whatever, he's going to keep smoking until he decides he's had enough.
Yeah.
At some point with our kids, let's give them a double message. Let's get on the kid that does the bullying or is being rude and say, you shouldn't really do that. But let's also have the same message. Young man, you can be more active, and you'll be a little bit better physical shape. That guy won't bully you.
It might be nice to get the one who's doing the bullying to now be the supporter, be the mentor for the.
Be a mentor. Come up with things like that.
How can you help this person?
How can we help him? Yes, we take one half of the message. Oh, don't tell him he's over. He knows he's overweight. Just like my players say, Coach, you don't need to remind us about our errors. There's a time, I tell you, there's going to be a time, like after a game, we're going to talk about the errors, because if we don't discuss them and how to fix them, we're not going to fix it.
Yeah.
But there's a difference. We're not going to punish them for the errors. We don't like them. There are consequences. If you make errors, you're going to lose the game. And I just saw an excellent blog on that the other day. Well, why can't we have that same kind of mentality when we're dealing with obesity, we're dealing with drugs, let's help encourage that person, but also let them know there are consequences. If you keep doing this, you're not going to be healthy. If you keep doing this, you're not going to be successful.
You're talking about the kids. You've got your brew there, and everything else.
We can run a whole study.
Yeah, exactly. We'll use him as a study.
We use him as a study.
But if you're a little bit smarter than somebody, you don't have to say you're dumb. But hey, would you like to come by and study? Let me learn. If it's somebody that's has a weight problem, you don't say, hey, let's drop by McDonald's and get a double. You say, hey, let's walk, let's go to the park, let's do this.
And then go to McDonald's.
Pardon? No. But in other words, helping those people with that solution, or say, I've heard about this, or share this information with somebody, whether it be maybe their skin condition or their weight or whatever it might be, but to share good, positive reinforcement with people you should care about. And we need to get that into our youth system. It's hard to get it in the adults, but I don't know where it comes from. I think it comes from parents caring. It comes from your churches. It comes from people. It comes from the school. But it also comes from a lot of good coaching, too.
Yeah, we try. Last week on my show, we talked about responsibility and accountability. And that's one thing that drives me crazy a little bit when I see what that one group here wanted to sue McDonald's because their kid was overweight and everything. Well, who gave the kid the money and told him just go eat at McDonald's anytime you want? Where did mom and dad step in with some accountability there to take responsibility for their child's nutrition, for their child's behavior, whatever?
Yeah, when did McDonald's become a drug?
Really?
It's perfectly legal to go to McDonald's and buy a hamburger. I mean,
but you don't want. That's not. I love McDonald's, and McDonald's. You should be sponsoring my show. I love my double quarter
fries.
I love that French fry. I love it, but I don't eat it every meal.
Yeah,
I'm not going to eat it 3 times a day.
You're talking about accountability, but look what's happened recently. Now medicine has said obesity is a disease. It's like you catch it.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that, come on.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, because they're going to get more money that way.
Obesity is not a disease. It is a choice.
They're going to get more money that way.
Of course they will.
Disease.
It's what you eat.
One more segment to go. Coach Mike here, Kids in Sports. My co-host Alex Alanese and Dr. Gerald Coy. We'll be right back.
are the Brothers Bear Podcast Live, and I'm your host, Sanch, and I'm always joined by
Edgar,
Carlos Medrano, and this is a show where we talk about
comics, movies, TV, video games, stand-up, music, and many more geeky things.
Catch us live on Rant Radio Network on Mondays from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m.
That's another commercial in the bag.
What up, foodie freaks? It's Chef Bev Lazo with the Culinary Trend Show. Join me and my brigade every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. where we will be cooking up some crazy stuff that will give you the appetite for discussion. It's all about the good food, good friends, and good times. Only here on rantradionetwork.com.
DM Narc Radio Show is now airing on the Rant Radio Network. You've heard the three guys Rant refer to us as the Clam Chowder Power Hour. Now we get to bring our New England humor over to Los Angeles. We'll be airing Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern, and we'll cover everything from local to national politics and news. Guess what? We're uncensored too. I'm Dave. Join me and Nick Friday on the Rant Radio Network.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch. Swing it.
Make your team look like pros with custom lineup cards. Whether you are a travel team, rec team, all-star team, or just some old guys playing slow pitch, we can make your team look a little better with some custom lineup cards. For the umpire, for the opponent, for the scorekeeper, for the dugout, no matter where your lineup card goes, you will look like a big league team with your team logo and name on top of your personalized lineup card. Just visit CustomLineupCards.com. With the best prices in town, you are sure to hit a home run with us. Visit CustomLineupCards.com and go pro.
They don't put their name down. I don't care. No.
Yeah, unknown calls. I don't answer them.
Coach Mike, Kids in Sports at the Rant Radio Network. Thanks for joining us. We're down to our final segment today. 2 hours goes by when we're having fun. And you were worried 2 hours wouldn't get by today. Alex, we're constantly amazed by how quickly the time goes, and we could do another hour. But Dr. Coy, thanks for all the information you've given us today. I know you know some people look at chiropractic and say, oh, you only know this segment. You've been involved with so much more, and that's why I like getting you on here. Tell us about some of the things you're doing for the kids now, and why should they be listening to you there?
Well, the Share Clinic is a facility that the Share Foundation has in Downey. We have a program for lower-income kids. It comes from lower-income families. In fact, we even treat for free. One of our concerns is the fact that a lot of people don't understand really what chiropractic is. That would take a whole show in explaining. But it is a sense of, we were talking about nutritional balance, we're talking about physical balance. We're helping children who have been injured by lifting too much or hurting various joints in the different sports. Obviously there's a different kind of injury that may come about from playing tennis than it is from playing football or soccer. We were talking about the young ladies who have structural imbalances in their spine because of using their head in the sport. And yet there's the young people who come from lower income families, they can't afford many times anything more than going to the emergency room, and only when they really hurt bad. So we offer programs to help these kids through the Share Clinics. And if anybody wants to come in, it's a free consultation. They can come in. They can contact the radio show here. They can call us on at the office at 562-776-1727. So again, it's a free consultation. Just call 562-776-1727, and we will sit down and discuss what your child's injury may be, how we might be able to help it, and as many of these children are taken care of at no charge.
And what if it turns out that you're looking at this kid, or adults, like you said, you do some adults too.
Oh yes.
And you determine that whatever they have needs a medical doctor. What do you do for them then?
Then we try to find a way in which they can get the medical care, because most of the people we see are lower income. And there's a lot of low-income medical facilities. If it's something that's emergency, we said, you need to get in to emergency for this. I've had people that come by and they wanted me to check them out and possible fracture or something like this from a sporting injury, and we x-ray them. I say, yep, you do. Goodbye.
Bye.
Sorry, I can't help you. You need to get in there and get that taken care of. But it's nice also to have a second opinion. There's a lot of kids that I've that sometimes are even in sports where they go into a medical doctor who is not really sports minded, and they say, well, you can't play this season.
Take 2 aspirin.
Take 2 aspirin or take 2 aspirins and stop playing. And we want to try to get the kids into a rehabilitation type program where they can continue, be careful how they develop their bodies, make sure that they don't re-injure or that the injury doesn't get worse, and get them back out on the field or get them on the track or whatever it might be, performing in the best way they possibly can. So we were very interested in seeing the kids don't get injured in their sports, but also that they can be rehabilitated in their sport. It's prevention. That's always the key. That's why we collaborated in the book, Healthy Kids in Sports. This program is Kids in Sports. Healthy Kids in Sports is the book that we wrote. Anybody that would like a copy of it, I hope they will contact you on your show and get one. If you have a child that's interested in sports, or you're interested in sports for your kids, whatever it might be, it's a must read. You will prevent, which is the key, prevent the injuries. And that's the biggest thing that the Institute's involved with. One is the care through the SHARE Clinic, but at the SHARE Foundation through communications, I've written several books. This is one of the ones I'm most proud of because it is out there helping our kids.
I've gotten some real good comments from some friends that have read it, and so, yeah, it does do a good job. Now, chiropractic's changed over the year. Like I said, we could do a couple shows. That'd be a whole other area. But I don't remember if it was you or another chiropractor friend of mine that told me once that most chiropractic, in your education, you actually go through a certain amount that regular medical doctors go through too. So it's not like you don't know anything about medicine.
Actually, in some states, we would take the same exams. It's what's called the basic sciences. Your anatomy, physiology, pathology, chemistry, biochemistry, these things were subjects that we study is the same way as medicine. And actually, the number of hours, the 4 years of education, which is in medicine, in most professionals, is a 4-year type of education. We've shown that we've actually even studied more hours than medicine. Medicine will then go into its specialties. Unfortunately, they've gotten so specialized. The human body is no longer a body. It's either a heart or it's a stomach or it's a nose or something like this, where chiropractic deals with it a little bit different in the sense of where medicine goes into drugs and surgery. We go into more the nutrition, the chiropractic techniques, the body changes, the adjusting process to help the body become a healthier temple for to enjoy sports or to do whatever you want to, but to live a natural, healthier life.
Alex, I see the smoke coming off the brain. There's something you're thinking right there.
Well, I actually visited a chiropractor for about 8 or 9 years, and it was because I became diabetic. And actually, my chiropractor, which was also a nutritionist, put me on a certain diet. I lost about 85 pounds, probably in about 5 months. And
were you bullied too?
Well, I wasn't heavy.
Not any more than he is now. I mean,
I wasn't heavy in school. I didn't become heavy until after I got married.
But
in school,
downfall for so many men.
Yeah,
is that?
sure
am I
is.
going to get in trouble for that?
Yeah. I actually, because I played soccer in school, I did a lot of running.
Okay.
My up at Lucerna, if you've seen the hill up at the top
Yep.
the coach there would tell us, okay, if you guys do so many things wrong, like we used to throw tape in the bus after the game. if you pick up a piece of tape, or depending on how many pieces of tape you pick up, that's how many hills we're going to run.
Okay.
So we're doing 7, 9, runs over the hill. It's pretty difficult. But I was actually about 170 pounds now when I got married. But now at a certain point, I reached 300 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
And became diabetic. The story I wanted to tell you though was about the chiropractor. He mentioned a lot of different things that I would be doing, the way I sleep, the way I sit. There were certain things that I was doing that was causing my deterioration, if you will, of my body. And exercise is an obvious one. We've been talking about that pretty much the whole show. But sleeping on my back now as opposed to my stomach has helped me immensely.
There's a way in which you torque the body. But you talk about also working with medical doctors. There's a medical doctor that's on TV that has a great show going. even though he's a heart surgeon, he's a surgeon and everything else, but the advice he gives on his television show, and that's Dr. Oz, is some of the best advice I've heard. He talks about foods to help the diabetic. He talks about foods that help even cancer-fighting foods, which you wouldn't ever expect coming from a medical doctor. And that's one of the things about chiropractic. Chiropractic is a drugless healing art. It is designed to help people naturally improve the health of their body. But Dr. Oz talks about that 80% of the chronic conditions we have are in the choices we make. And this, as chiropractors, we're trying to do is offer people exercise choices. You know, I'm not a sports physician, but there are certain common sense ways of how to help that child develop its body so it doesn't get injured. How to help somebody in nutrition or sleeping habits or whatever it might be to improve the health of your body. And that's all natural. There's no side effects from sleeping better. There's no side effects from developing your body and strengthening your body better. This is all the way the body's supposed to be. Health is a natural God-given birthright. It's what we do to the body afterwards that we kind of screw it up. But I'm glad he gave you good advice.
Well, I lost, like I said, I lost about 85 pounds.
And got healthier. I know there's challenges in that area still. We develop weaknesses, and sometimes those weaknesses manifest, but it doesn't mean there aren't other things that we can do. You know, even chiropractic, a lot of people think chiropractic is just a back doctor, but what it deals with is the nervous system, and the nervous system controls all function in the body. And what's so important is to make sure that that the nervous system isn't being interfered with, so that the body's working right, whether it be the pancreas, whether it be your lungs, whether it be your heart, whether it be the muscles that twitch and cause you to jump higher or do whatever you need to do. But that's the whole purpose of chiropractic, is to make sure the body's in balance structurally and functioning as free of nerve interferences as possible, so you can hopefully be less a diabetic, less an asthmatic, because those nerve interference can affect those areas even also.
Well, and sports is a perfect example of the connection here, is because if you are hurt, you're not going to function as well. And I have a player who had transferred to my school that her previous coach let her play after she tore her ACL, and said, "Oh no, it's don't worry, it's not that serious. You just twisted your foot." And actually had her back out there. You know, I think she said she was still practicing on this thing over a week after she tore. I don't know how she did it, but you know, there should be signs going off. Gee, I'm not doing as well. Solve the pain.
You know,
solve the problem.
I was used to work with coaches more when in Downey when I was young and energetic and doing all these things. And I used to have coaches send me some of their athletes to evaluate what's performing and also to check the balance of the body. I had some runners. I had a coach that was really into the running aspect in the track. And you could see in the dynamics of the balance of that body, the posture that we look at, there was something wrong. And as we worked with these kids and helped to rehabilitate the balance, all of a sudden, instead of being the back of the pack, they were now coming up, and they were fifth, and they were fourth, and they were hopefully second and first sometimes. So it's important, to take care of the body, but also make sure that those little injuries when you fell out of the tree and broke the arm, you may have hurt the body more, that now you're paying 5 years or 10 years later by something else, be the poor posture or whatever's going on in there that's causing the body to be sick.
And they say some of soft tissue injury can be months or years. I mean, sometimes I wonder if some of that isn't just exaggeration.
I'm sorry, you cannot, with MRIs and CAT scans and everything else, we can see more inside the body. Medicine's always like to poo-hoo it. If it isn't broken, don't fix it type thing. I got news for you. There's a lot of torn ligaments, torn tendons, and a lot of other damage in there. And because medicine even disagrees with medicine. And you'll find in medicine, especially the sports doctors, who have come about with some research over the last 20, 30, 40 years that totally changes the way we look at athletes and how we treat athletes back from the 50s. I hope we've gotten some information out to the folks
Just
out
like
there.
that.
Worthwhile 2 hours. I think every parent needs to hear this.
This is Necessary Radio.
We had to change. Can we change the name of that to the Necessary Network? No. Dr. Coy, thanks again. Thank you, Alex, my co-host here. And Kids in Sports will be back next Tuesday right here on the Rant Radio Network. Tune in to Alex's show on Wednesdays and Dr. Koi's show on Fridays here also. Have a great week.
Have a question? Kids in Sports coming up next.